Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about altcoins, something that I haven't touched on too much in terms of the crypto total market cap, excluding the top 10, right? We are going to be monitoring this and we will be explaining where it is possible for us to be heading towards, okay? So pretty much, if you guys don't know, this is one of the indicators of knowing when altcoin season is around the corner and when altcoins are doing well. Of course, when altcoin dominance is higher, then that typically means that we are pretty much in altcoin season or altcoins are popping off. It doesn't have to mean that 100%, but that is what it means most of the time historically, right? When we go look over here, for example, at this specific candle, we see this is May of 2021, right? And this was the peak for the first pump, right? Most coins peaked in May. So, right, what do we see? Dominance went all the way up to 17.5%. And then, we dipped off and then we rose. And the second time we peaked was in January of 2022, the beginning of January, right? However, ladies and gentlemen, we know kind of historically that alts actually peaked a little bit earlier in November. That's what I'm saying. Just because it peaks a little higher or it has a little wave higher doesn't mean that is necessarily going to be the peak. It's just that Bitcoin was getting destroyed so much, but altcoins are also getting destroyed at that point. But we can see, right, generally speaking, right, every time altcoin dominance goes up, it is usually when, pretty much altcoin season is happening. And of course, when the biggest pumps are happening. So another time that pretty much happened was when we went in 2017, right? We pretty much peaked towards the end of the year in terms of altcoins right over here. So you can see, even though this had a higher peak at one point in June, most altcoins peaked in December and January of 2017, 2018. So like I said, once again, it doesn't 100% have to be, just because the dominance is high doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be at its highest, because context does matter. But we can see, generally speaking, right, that has been the case. Now, what do we see, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we see that we are going down. And for the last few months, we have been closing red. Okay, that is just how it's been. And that is how it's most likely going to be up until we get to 6.5% in terms of dominance. One of the things that is a little bit concerning, right? There are multiple factors, is that if we use this big trend line, which, trend line in crypto actually works very well. We can see that we have touched the trend line multiple times, and now we are going through, of course, at the bottom here, almost touching here, literally touching over here, and of course here, and now we have crashed below. It is very unorthodox for things to just hold a trend line forever. Usually there's some type of pullback. That's just the way the markets are, right? So some people thought it was going to be like this, and it turned out not to be the case. So we are going to be going lower, and most likely where we will bottom out is roughly at this big area. Now, I say most likely because I do see multiple weeks of rejection over here, right? Which means every time we tried pushing up, we have just been failing. There is a very small chance that we could have some kind of bounce back from down here, right, into this, some type of order block, and go like this. But even if we went back up to roughly 10%, it wouldn't mean anything, because we would be below the trend line, and it could just be simply a bigger pullback for a further dump. Okay, that is just how reality is at this current moment. So, not very optimal either way. But we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that that is this current scenario. I do believe this would be the point of where we would bounce off of, because this is pretty much going to be one of the last main areas, and a big monthly order block and institutional candle right over here. Of course, if we would go below this, I think then the whole crypto market is just dead, right? Altcoin dominance going back down to like 2%, 3% would be absolutely diabolical. We wouldn't have seen those levels since pretty much since 2017. So it would be very concerning. Our altcoins would be down another 99% from here, but I don't think that's going to be the case, as I do think there's going to be an altcoin season this cycle. Now, we have seen historically that every time the dominance has dropped a good amount, and it looked like times were over. We have actually recovered very, very nicely and very, very quickly over the next few weeks and months, right? See, in 2019, we went down to right below 5%. And then pretty much a year later, we were back up to 11%. But then here was the big one, right? Pretty much in the end of December of 2020, we were down here, right? At roughly 6% dominance, a little bit below 6% dominance. And what happens max upwards of a year later? We have a couple months later, we have the first big pump, right, at 17.5%, and then the other one at 18%. So the same thing could very well happen. And we've seen Bitcoin, right? We've seen something like Bitcoin, for example, go from, let's see this price, go from roughly 78K back up to 95,000 in just a couple of days. So we know these markets can very well be, pumping higher and higher and very, very quickly, right? We know that. We pretty much from the early Friday to early Sunday, we went up thousands of dollars, right? Almost $20,000. So we know there could be a very, very quick recovery. We know the markets are not shy of pumping very quickly. Since we're already on Bitcoin, I will say that, like I said, it was very, very unlikely for us to be on holding this area. I expected a little bit of a pullback, right? A little bit of pullback before it dumped, but there was just no support at all, and this thing just crashed, right? This thing just crashed. I don't really expect a pullback from the 82K area, to be honest. I think if anything, it would be roughly around the 80,000 if we are going to get some type of pullback. Now we do have a little bit of a gap still potentially at 78K. I will say, right, the only time everything is completely done for is if we start going back down to 70K and we start kind of just rejecting a lot, right? Like let's say we come back down here and then we just kind of keep trying to pull back, but then we can't, then it's going to be over, right? Something like this means it is over. The whole cycle is over. We lost. Pack your bags. It is what it is. You're becoming a bag holder until some kind of recovery in the future, right? We can see lots of altcoins are bleeding out. 85 cents, right? So for Ondo, we can see that we are going to be hitting our targets of 65 cents. Same thing with DIA, same thing with XDC, same thing with HBAR, right? We are going to certain zones. We talked about. Same thing with Radium, same thing with Turbo, same thing with ICP, same thing with XRP, right? Myro, Caspa, any coin, you name it, we are going down. And yeah, it sucks. It really does suck, but that is just reality. Unfortunately, I myself can't change this. I wish I could just, put our dominance up by 30%, pump Bitcoin extra 100K, put an extra 10 trillion market cap into the whole market, but I don't have that power. So yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. I know that it's tough times and, it's a little bit scary, but I will be looking personally to be buying coins. I have some in mind. I'll be sharing that with the community. And yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.